All right, so a common task that we are asked here at enosiX is how we can fetch ancillary information from SAP as it relates to a synchronized record over in the Salesforce ecosystem. So what I've done for this demonstration is create a custom object within our Salesforce instance. This is called SAP Delivery. I've got the fields displayed here, basically the standard fields, but in addition to that, we've got the document ID, which is what we're going to be utilizing in order to fetch information from the SAP system. So using our Customer 360 real-time integration for SAP, we can effectively just tie together using this ID and the components that we have pre-built in order to display information as it relates to this underlying SAP delivery record. So in order to do this, we'll jump over to our flows screen. Now in order to get here, I went to setup, which is top right here, push setup. Within the quick find, if we type in flow, you'll see it's under process automation. You click flows and that gets you here. What I've done is started to clone a flow, and in order to do that, we'll open up the delivery search flow. Now the reason I'm cloning this is that it actually is already done a lot of the work for us in that we're going to be passing information over to our delivery details subflow. This is that underlying delivery details record as well as the list of components for the items and then the document flow. But effectively what we want to do is replace this SAP document search screen that is pre-built as part of this flow into a record lookup based off of that ID that we have. We'll be passing in. So in order to do this, this is the delivery search flow, we need to get a delivery detail flow going. And what we would do here, because this is a flow template, we could push save as. When we go into save as, we would put in a name here. So I put SAP delivery details, and then the flow API name is already put in there. Additionally, the type is a screen flow. It's going to remain a screen flow. And effectively what that's going to do is get you to the point where I am right now, which is you would then have a SAP delivery detail flow. So let's go ahead and open this up and take a look. Okay, so now that we've cloned the delivery search flow into a new flow called SAP delivery detail, from start we're flowing over to enosiX SAP document search. So this is going to be searching for deliveries. From that, when we make a selection, the ID is actually going to be passed over after it's assigned to a variable. It's passed over to this SAP delivery details subflow. What we're going to do is remove this flow from being the starting screen, and from here we're actually going to get records. And so for this record, what we want to do is get Salesforce delivery, and we'll be clearer on that. Get Salesforce SAP delivery. From this, we're going to get the record of this object. The object we're looking for is SAP delivery, which is the one that we created within Salesforce. What we want to do is, once these conditions are met, we want to ensure that the record ID is equal to the record ID that's being passed in. And again, this record ID is actually a built-in named parameter from Salesforce when we're utilizing these flows from a record detail page. So record ID is being passed in automatically. Once we put this flow onto a record detail page, that's going to be populated with the Salesforce record ID automatically. From here, sorting the SAP delivery records, we don't need to sort because we're only looking for the first record, so only the first record selected. From here, where to store the field values, we can kind of jump step. You have two ways of doing this. Either you could create another variable to store the actual record in, and this is what we would recommend if there are several fields that you wanted to combine, just because they're all within a single succinct object. But for what we're doing here, we're actually just going to be passing in a variable from a different field. So effectively, we're going to grab that single record from the record ID that we're already going to be passed in, and then from here we want to take the SAP document ID field and then assign that to the selected SAP document ID variable. That's part of this built-in flow that we cloned. So from here we can push done. We now have this shiny new get records component here, and we're going to make that the start of our flow. So from the start, we're going to go and grab the record based off of the ID that's being passed in. From here, we actually can delete that flow line and drag from this node to the delivery details. And the reason we can do that is when we look at the actually the delivery details definition here of the subflow, we'll double click on that. You'll see there are a couple fields that are being passed in automatically from a flow we cloned. The first one is record ID, so we're passing the Salesforce record ID that's being automatically assigned. That's being included with that subflow. The selected doc flow type is actually a constant that we created as part of the flow, so SAP Delivery is going to let the subflow know that that's the type of object we're looking at. And then the selected SAP document ID is what we just selected out of the assignment or the get records that we fetched. So we did that in a single kind of step. We fetched the single top record and then assigned the ID to that initial SAP document ID that's being passed in. So we push done. From here we can save this as a new version, which is what I'll do because oftentimes I kind of make mistakes and have to roll back, and versioning is built into these Lightning flows. I'm saving it as a new version, and I can do that because this is now within the namespace org that we have Salesforce-wise. It's not something that was delivered. You saw the first time we did the cloning of that object, or the cloning of the record. A new flow is the only option, and that's because that was a managed template. So from here, we're going to save it as a SAP delivery detail. We don't need to modify that because it's just a new version. We can push save. And now these warnings come up every once in a while. Effectively, this is a totally valid flow. We can exit out of that. What I'd like to do now is actually kind of test this out before we activate it and deploy it to our customers. So we push debug here, and it's going to ask for any input variables. Search presets actually assigned. You could pass that in if you'd like, but search presets actually assigned per the flow. What we're looking to do is pass in the record ID in a similar fashion to what SAP or Salesforce would be doing. So inside of this, we'll jump over to one of our Salesforce delivery or SAP deliveries within the Salesforce org. I've got the ID here within the URL. We can copy that, and then back in our test here, we can pass that in as the record ID and push run. Now from here, you can see that we actually got the SAP delivery detail information as well as the delivery items within the flow here as being passed in within that record ID. This is just the default interaction of the delivery or SAP document details flow. Again, if you don't want to utilize that, or you only want to use part of the delivery details flow or the document details flow, you certainly could do that. But by default, the SAP document details subflow will based off of the parameters we pass in, render the proper delivery information. So also another thing that it's doing is handling the navigation between individual items within the delivery and SD doc flow within the SAP system. So when we click on delivery item details, for instance, sales document flow and delivery item details are already handled. So that's part of that subflow we're navigating to as part of this. So this looks like it's working, good to go. I'm going to jump back to our prior tab, and just as a little bit of cleanup, I'm going to remove that screen because it just doesn't have to be here. I do that by clicking on this trash can. And I'm going to save it once again. We see that it's still inactive, so what I'm going to do is jump back to our list of flows. And this is still the delivery search flow, so we want to go back to the entire list. We see the SAP delivery details here. That's the flow we cloned and created from the delivery search flow. But we notice that there's a delete option there, and that's because this hasn't been activated. There's another indicator here where there's no check mark, obviously. So what we'll do is make that selection to this flow. Our latest version, version 2, was the most recent one we saved. So these are increasing in number. What I want to do is activate this version. And now that this is active, we can put it directly on the screen, or like I'm going to do, I'm going to put this into a quick action, which requires us to create a button on the SAP delivery object. So what I'll do now is transition over to Object Manager. From the Object Manager, I will type in SAP delivery. That's our object that we created in here. Inside of this, we want to create a button first. So I'll click Buttons, Links, and Actions. I'll click a new action. And now from action type, we have a few different options, but the one that we want to select is the flow. So we want to find the flow that we just created for the delivery detail. And coincidentally, that's the one that popped up here. Now, when we create this flow, or the quick action button, you see that there are several different options for our flow that we can select. Effectively, every one of these, save for the delivery detail that we just created and the SAP sales document details, you could put directly onto the SAP or the Salesforce account record, because in a similar fashion, what we're doing, it's going to be taking that record ID and then finding the applicable SAP information based off that relationship. So these, you could put buttons on the account page by default if you'd like, but what we want to do is make that selection for the delivery detail that we just created. Here we will put SAP real-time details. This could be named anything. Effectively, it's just a label for our users to be able to understand what we're going to be doing. So I just do this for demonstration purposes. We'll save this. And now, after we've saved this, we want to go and add that button to a page layout. So the SAP delivery layout is the only one we have. You would have to do this for every layout that you want, effectively adding that button to every layout that you'd like. So I will make that selection. I'll push mobile and lightning actions, and you'll see our button is here now, SAP real-time details. We're going to scroll down, and Salesforce mobile and lightning experience actions are what we're looking for. We're going to drag and drop this right into that section. Now, you might notice that there are a couple sections that are already blocked out here. I've already done this, but when you see this wrench down in the bottom right-hand corner, if you haven't seen that before, you can override it to customize. I already did that within the Salesforce mobile and lightning experience actions here within the SAP delivery object. So I will push save on this, and this should update our layout, our SAP delivery layout. So let's go ahead and take a look at one of those SAP delivery objects. See if our button works. So I will type in SAP to filter down my results. I'll click on SAP delivery. We see we've got two records here, Micro Center. We'll make that selection. Now you see our SAP real-time details button is here, and from this should trigger our flow in real time. So we make a selection there, and in real time, we now can view the SAP delivery details, take a look at the item level details as well, and if we wanted to take a look at like a related sales order, for instance, we could go to that document all within the Salesforce screen right here.